Post.
Okay, I'm recording.
You are? Okay, great. Okay. So we're going to go through the 8 keys to unstoppable growth. And guys, she spent like a whole half day talking about this. So obviously I can't go into the same detail that she did, but they were awesome. And I would love to, you could spend a whole call just talking on one of them. So I'll try to go through them the best that I can. And I think, well, Leslie and Katie might join us because they were going to talk on it, but they also might have thought the call was next week based on my post. So just a mess on this call apparently. But okay, so number 1, 8 keys to unstoppable growth. Number 1 is change your thinking. So how you think about anything is what's creating your lid on it. So stop thinking small. Like if you are thinking small, like I'm going to get SC2, then you're probably going to get SC2 or less. Like you're never going to get any higher. And I'll say like, congrats to Adrienne for changing her goal and be like, forget it, I'm going to go for SC10. She just raised her lid immensely by saying that. Like she stopped thinking small and raised her lid and gave herself the opportunity to actually grow bigger. Like, and it's okay if you don't hit that goal, but at least now your lid is higher to help you get there. So you know, Danny's big thing, if you've read anything or listening to her before, is the 98% of the world versus 2%. And 98% of the population will be dead or dead broke by the age of 65. If you're still living, you're probably being taken care of by friends, family, or government because you're dead broke. You don't have any money. Only 2% of the population will be alive and financially free. That's a very small percent, guys, and it starts right here, right now with how are you thinking? What are you thinking that you're going to be? I can't say I'm quite in all the 2% because when she starts to talk about 98%, I was like, wow, I really need to work on that for sure. But so that whole concept of how you're thinking, stop thinking small, goes along with the whole concept of birds of a feather flock together is one of the things she talks about a lot. You always see it in a lot of our posts when we're at Danny Johnson. We always talk about this in general, like who are the 5 people you're surrounding yourself with, because you are a product of your environment. So who is your center of influence? Who are you hanging out with? That is something you need to look at. I'm glad you're all hanging out with me right now because that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's not just who you hang out physically with because that has to be your job, or, you know, that's the kind of, or maybe you're a volunteer and you have to hang out with certain people. But I was just speaking with a woman today that said, you know, she befriended her daughter's best friend, or her daughter's best friend kind of befriended her, and they were hanging out more and more together because they're in sports together, they hang out a lot together. And she quickly realized like this person was really negative, just spoke not in a way that she would speak, disrespectful to other people, had a lot of stereotypes, a lot of discriminations. And the longer she starts hanging out with her, she's like, I have got to separate myself from this person because this is not who I want to be. So when you are around those people, you need to check yourself too. Check yourself. That's Blaine's new title of her group. I think that's hilarious. But you have to check, like, are these the people that I really want to, one, be associated with, or that I want to become? And I want to become successful. So I like to hang out with successful people. I want to be positive. So I hang out with positive people. And we all can't be perfect. I don't expect perfection. We all slip and fall. But really, who are you hanging out with? Lots more on that. So 98%ers, we're still on number 1, change your thinking. So for you guys not really familiar with the whole 2%er versus 98%er, here was like a quick rundown of what we talked about. 98%ers buy stuff, they don't invest and learn. They're the ones out there buying new houses and new boats and new cars and new clothes and new purses and just all this. They always have to have new stuff because that's what society defines success for them. 2%ers invest in themselves and they're always learning. 98%ers care about other people's opinions. 2%ers don't. We don't care about what other people say about us or what they think about us because we know that we're on the right path and what we should be doing. 98 percenters think the economy controls their success. I just heard this from someone the other day that I was kind of feeling was more on the 2 percenter side. And they said, oh, well, when the economy crashed, everyone lost their job. And I was like, not really everyone loses their job when the economy crashes. Maybe the people that are expendable. I realized that things happen like that, but the economy doesn't control successful people. So, and if they do have a setback, they keep going. They just pick up and keep going and find where they do fit in. 98% let outside circumstances determine their life and success. So this is a perfect example because Crystal's on the call, but she's had a lot of outside circumstances with stress with planning a wedding and the things that you have to do. There's a lot of coaches that have outside circumstances when they have a baby or they're pregnant or struggling in that sense. So that's an outside circumstances that will stop a lot of coaches and stop a lot of people from pursuing their dreams and what they want to be doing. And 2%ers don't do that. They just keep going. 98%ers spend money on useless information, like she started talking about magazines and trashy novels, and I'm in this category, spend too much on cable TV, those sort of things where their money is going. It's not helping them grow their business. It's not helping them learn more. It's not helping them pay off debt in any way. 98%, their wealth is in someone else's bank account. So they're not investing it back into themselves. They're not, she goes back into investing in real estate or stocks or where you're putting your money. And that's a whole another big topic. But 98% live in an excuse economy instead of a results economy. 98% look for things to be easy versus 2% look for it to be worth it. This job is not easy, guys. Like, I just talked to a new coach that I just enrolled, and I told her, I said, listen, you own the 21-day fix, and the 21-day fix is simple. It tells you what to eat. It tells you how many containers to eat. It tells you what workout to do every day. It tells you how much water to drink. It is very, very simple. That does not mean that it's easy. It's not easy to eat what you're supposed to eat and press play every day and, drink water all day. And it's not easy. I get that, but it's very simple. And it's the same way for coaching. Coaching is really simple. It's a matter of doing the vitals consistently over a period of time, investing in yourself to learn more and do personal development. But it's not easy. It's just as easy not to send the invites. It's just as easy not to read the personal development. It's just as easy to just be like, oh, it'll be there tomorrow. But then you lose that consistency, and that's what separates successful coaches from unsuccessful coaches. So there's a tons more on that. I could do a whole call on 98%ers versus 2%, and they're not all that long, but she just went on more and more. And I'll just point out the one thing on this topic, though, that was probably my biggest takeaway from the whole event was she focused on this in a lot of areas, but was prioritizing who your team is. And whether you believe in God or not, you can remove God from this whole equation. But a lot of us get caught up in making our coworkers or our challengers or our team our number one priority. And what comes before that is your family. Your family comes first. Your family needs to be taken care of. Your husband needs to be taken care of. Your kids need to be taken care of. And before that, if you're a religious person, it doesn't matter what religion, then you have to make time for your God. You have to make time to do your devotional and spend time with him every day. And the order of your team gets mixed up really easily. And it was, for me, the whole weekend was referred to this, and how Matthew and my boys are my number one team. And when I put you guys ahead of them, that's dishonoring this family that I made a huge commitment to be there 100% of the time, and serve them and honor them. And so that was one of my biggest takeaways from the whole thing, And that fell into change your thinking. Like, how are you thinking about things? Who are you prioritizing? Who are you putting first? So there was a lot more on that, which was great. So, but I mean, I can't reiterate enough that it's nothing like they're being there live. So, okay. So number 2 step to unstoppable growth is, what do you want? Decide what you want. Why are you here? And what would you do if you couldn't fail? This year, what would you do? Would you be a 1-star, 2-star, 5-star, 15-star? Like, if you couldn't fail, what would you do? Would you be ready for that? Would you be ready to be the top? Or do you want to base it around income? Do you want to base it around leaving a current job that you're in? Like, what do you want to do? Nothing becomes dynamic until it becomes specific. Until you specifically say, I want to do this. And we do that in monthly goals, but do you do that for yourself quarterly? Do you do that for like a half point in the year? And do you do that for the year? And do you constantly track and evaluate where you are? So what do you want to do? 2% of the population has their own vision. The other 98% of us are just doing what our jobs tell us to do and doing what society tells us to do, and accumulate debt and buy things and just keep paying on credit cards, and you need this and you need that. And 2% actually have a vision of where their life wants to be. So they're that much more likely to get there. So you have to decide what you want, why you're here, and what you would do if you couldn't fail. A really good point that she had is that a lot of people go out there. So she started talking to people that weren't married and what they were looking for in a relationship. So, I'm looking for this, or you get on a dating website, like, I'm looking for this and I'm looking for that and I'm looking for this. And think about what we do looking for coaches. Like, I want someone like me. I want someone motivated. I want a go-getter. I want someone without excuses on all this stuff. And she said, instead of keep looking, trying to find the right person, why don't you try being the right person and see who you attract? When you are the right person and you are all the things that you're looking for in someone, whether that's a relationship or coaching, and that comes across in your posts, like what you're looking for, guys, we are not the team. I'm not trying to, I was going to say raise, but I do feel like I'm raising you sometimes. But we are not the team that's looking for quantity. Like, we are not the team that's going to have 40 Success Club points, because that's not who we are. Like, that's not the team that we come from above us. We're blessed to be in a great upline. There's people within the team that of course get crazy Success Club points and are big recruiters, and they're in the top 10 coaches. And if you tell me, Kimberly, that's where I want to be, that's what I want to do, I will do my best to try to help you get there. But I think the idea of becoming the right person and attracting quality people like ourselves, doesn't matter what personality type you are, but just attracting that quality person that sees that in you and sees that they can do it, is going to bring our team and your team to an entirely new level. So I took a ton from that statement. Just stop trying to find the right people and start being the right person to heart. And that comes across on social media. Like, that's what we're here to expose on social media. So anyways, there was so many other things on that. So number 3 was learning. So unstoppable growth, you have to learn. Wrap your head around the fact that you will always be growing and learning. If you're ever sitting in a room and you're thinking, I know all this, or you're sitting on one of these webinars and you're like, I've heard this a million times before, I already know this, then ask yourself 2 things. If you already know it all, are you doing it, or do you just know it? Like, if you already know all the vitals, do you actually do them every day, or you just know them? And then if you are doing them, then let's learn something new. Like, let's take it to the next level. I do feel like sometimes whenever I feel like I'm hitting a lid or hitting somewhere and not moving up and not advancing and just kind of stuck in a rut, basically, it's that I've become somewhat unteachable because I've stopped learning and I just got to learn more. So recently I've been I expanded and I invested in learning more about social media, and it's a lot. Like, I don't feel like I necessarily have all the time to do it in the world, but I have to learn more. And it was nice to hear it on the list. Like, okay, what can I learn now? But it's not a matter of going out there and like learning Pinterest and Facebook and Instagram and all this thing, because unless you've like really mastered one and you're doing it consistently, and then you're hitting a wall after 6 months, a year, 2.5 years, and I need to expand and learn something new or do something different, then that's different. So I don't want you like chasing all these things that you feel like you need to do. I just want you constantly learning. Being hungry equals being teachable. So if you're hungry to grow this business, then you are teachable. You are a sponge. You want to take it all in. An unteachable state of mind is a really closed mind and a small way of thinking, which just goes back to number one. Are you thinking small or are you thinking big? Okay, that was a short one. Number 4, you have to develop profound people skills. So developing profound people skills goes in a lot, to like the forming concept of learning, of talking to people rather and getting to know them rather than diving right into selling them something. But it's really learning the basics of what you're doing too. So, this was not all about business. This was learning the basics of marriage, learning the basics of raising kids. This was a great statement, Crystal, as far as weddings. She said, people will spend $30,000 on a wedding, but never invest $1 on how to make a marriage work. I was like, that's so true. And that's why the divorce rate is what it is. Like, we put all this money into one day, and then no one ever takes the time to read a marriage book or go to a marriage conference or anything like that. So, 2% of the population invest in getting better in all areas of their life. They invest and learn constantly on all topics: marriage, children, social media, running their business, whatever it is. So along with that, learning people skills, the importance of the fact that, you guys, we want to make more money. I mean, I know we all have great whys and goals of what we could do with that money, but we went around the room the first night at this retreat, and people shared what they wanted to do. And there were some amazing, amazing goals as far as, charities they wanted to build and centers they wanted to build to give back, and like just amazing things. But none of that can be built without money. Like, none of it can. Like, as wonderful as it is, you have to have a lot of money to do some of those things. So it does come back to that. And all money comes from people. People have the money. So we have to know people to get the money. Like, if we don't know people, we're not going to get the money. And then developing leaders, we talk more about that. Income follows your personal growth, which we said income follows your character development. Just the idea of, respecting every human, like, treating people like they deserve to be treated with respect. They're not a Success Club point. They're not $30. They are a human being that wants to make a change or doesn't want to make a change. And in that case, they're probably not going to move on. And I have something about that later on. Let me see if it stands out to me. I don't see it. It was something about, people that didn't really want to buy it aren't going to continue. So I have people that will quit after a month. They didn't want to buy it in the first place. Like, I either asked them enough times that they felt like they had to, or they were worn down, or they're like, I have got to buy this 21-day fix because I cannot deal with Kimberly anymore. Like, whatever it is, those are the people that after 30 days, though, they're like, done, So really getting to know the people and honor and respect those people that you come in contact with. Honor and respect those inside your house the most. We have to stand and cheer on our families first before we can even be good cheerleaders to other people. Like, and if you ever have coaches, or if you're ever in a situation, I know some of us have been in the situation, especially as new coaches, where the spouse is not 100% on board, supportive, doesn't get it, or whatever level it is, but Do you support him in everything that he's doing? Like, are you his cheerleader when it comes to something else? Because I do feel like the more that we support them and give them, like Summer would say, if you give them what they want, you will get what you want. So, but that can come in many different forms. Okay, so let's go to number 5. Number 5 is the law of reaping and sowing. And the rule is to know it intimately. So you reap what you sow. So 98% of people chase fantasies. They can't start a business. They do nothing. They don't expect to make any money. They just go to their job. They work their 9 to 5. And they think this is it. Like, this is what life is. It's just going to your job. It's paying your bills. It's going home. It's cooking dinner. It's cleaning the house. And you're on autopilot. And that's what life is. And guys, I have never believed that that's what life is. And I feel like some people might be listening to this or might watch the recording or will come across a coach that does believe what life is, or even might have part of you might still believe that. But when I graduated from college, I bought my own business. I moved halfway across the country. I didn't know anyone. I, after 2 years, failed miserably and declared bankruptcy at that business. And I started a family. I got married. I had 3 kids. And then I started another business because I know that I am not made to get a job or work in a bank or work in a cubicle. That's fine. I know we need that. We need that in the world. But that's for 98%ers. That's not for 2%ers. And that's not where I want to be. Like, that's not where I want to be. I want to be financially free. I want to call the shots. I want to give as much as I want to give. I want to help as much as I want to help. And that's where I'm going. And that's what I'm going to start putting out there more and more, because I'm going to be that person so that I can attract that person. And I encourage you guys to do the same, because I feel like you all have similar goals, or you wouldn't be on the call tonight, to be honest. The reaping and sowing, she talks a lot about this. If you need more encouragement, you need to give more encouragement. If you need more love, then you need to give more love. If you're not encouraging those in your house the most, then you're not going to be satisfied with the encouragement that you're getting inside or outside the house. You have to love those that others hate. You have to encourage those that need it the most. You have to start, or you have to continue to encourage people that don't affect your income. You have to reach out to people that don't affect your bottom line, because you reap what you sow. And if you're not going to be able to step out and encourage anyone who needs it and love on those that need love the most, then don't ever expect it to come back to you. Like, it's just a law, and that's how it works. And it's so, so true. And I think we forget about that. Money comes from people, and your job is to influence people. So you don't think that maybe someone affects your income, but she talks about this later on in the idea of forming people and getting to know the person in the grocery store, the person sitting next to you on the airplane, which I met this amazing person on the way home on the airplane. But every person you meet and come in contact with knows on average 2,000 people that you don't know. So you don't know, you have no idea who that person will lead you to. Just because they might not need health and fitness, just because they don't want to be a coach, doesn't mean that they're not going to lead you to someone amazing that is going to impact your business. And that only comes from talking to people, loving people, encouraging people, and not worrying about your paycheck. And then I made a note to myself to reread the 5 love languages. She started talking about that as far as the reap what you sow. Because just because you're giving, she didn't even say the name of the book, but I knew that's what she was talking about. If you've never read it, it's called The 5 Love Languages. And everyone has a different love language that speaks to them and that speaks to you. And a lot of times we're giving encouragement in the love language that we want to receive, but that's not someone else's love language. So I know it's impossible to know everyone, but the people that you're closest with, like, just like we share our gems, like, I think it would be great to share in a group, like, what our love languages are. Because if I'm like sitting here forcing gifts down your throat, and you hate gifts because it makes you feel uncomfortable, or you have to send a thank you note, or you just don't want it, like, then that's not what I need to be doing to you. But if you want a nice note, or if, whatever, I can't personally touch all you when if that's what you want, but you know what I mean? Like, I'll send you a virtual hug. But it'd be nice. I mean, you definitely need to start with the people in your household, and even including your children. Like, there's a love languages for kids. Like, you have to know what they need to give it to them. And even though that's not necessarily what you want in return, that's where you have to start as far as reaping and sowing. All right. So number 6 is take personal responsibility instead of taking offense. So that whole idea of personal responsibility is throughout a ton of personal development. I actually was cleaning out some books today, and one of them was The Slight Edge, which is, one of the first books that I read. It's very similar to Compound Effect, but I feel like it's almost geared more towards health and fitness and weight loss for some reason. For those of you who don't know, Jeff Olson, who wrote it, he's the founder and creator of Nerium, very successful multi-level marketing company. So it's a great book, The Slight Edge. But anyways, the book that I just opened it up and like flipped a few pages, and it was actually talking about this subject as far as taking responsibility and stop blaming other people for your success or your failures. So take personal responsibility instead of taking offense. Danny talks a lot about to be slow to take offense. And one of the things that really stuck out to a lot of us this weekend, and we got in a big conversation about it, is the idea of how we get offended not knowing the whole story. And this can even be with your spouse when you know them very closely, or it can be with someone that you feel like you know really well and you know the whole story. But in most cases, you're like getting offended knowing 10% of what's going on, or you're placing blame on someone for treating you some way or doing this or that, and 10% of what's going on. You don't know the whole story. You don't know, and we can make it a small example and say that the person on the customer service line is a total jackass to you, and you don't know why they're being so rude and blah, 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 blah. But we don't know what happened, guys. Like, we don't know what happened that morning. We don't know if he got a speeding ticket on the way there, and his girlfriend broke up with him last night, and he has hemorrhoids. I don't know why I thought of that, but maybe he does. But maybe the guy's just having a really hard day, and he doesn't want to deal with your Shakeology return, like, that's not what he wants to be doing. Like, he doesn't want to be working in a cubicle like the rest of us. He's in a bad mood. But we get offended and take it personally, or we blame, and we don't take responsibility for how we're treating the other human being, or do we know the whole story? No, we're just not as accepting as we should be as humans in general. And that's like a little one, but and then the other one was Danny Johnson has this horrific, horrible, sad story, like just from birth to 25 years old, just and even since then, she just has, when she tells stories, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this woman has just been through the ringer. Like, she's just constantly tested. And at one point, she was molested as a child by several people, but one being her father or stepfather. She didn't know it was her stepfather, but and she had all this like hatred and anger for her mom for never like stepping up and doing anything about it or saying anything about it for years. And she then said that she came to this conclusion, like learning this and taking personal responsibility. And people are kind of like, even me, it's like, how can you be responsible? You're this little girl for like, being hurt. And she's like, I don't take responsibility for that. But for me to blame my mother, like, she had just been in an accident. She was severely paralyzed. Then my father started to take advantage of me. And when I looked back on it years later, it was like, listen, this woman had been beaten her whole life. Her husband was, huge drug dealer, angry temper. Now she's half paralyzed. Like, if she had gone to her husband and said, you better not touch Danny anymore, he would have killed her. He would have killed her. And she knew that because she knew 100% of the story. Danny, as a child, saw 10% of the story. She saw she wasn't being taken care of. Yes, that's very sad, but like to be able to look at it that way years later and be like, I didn't know the whole story. And the fact is she would have been killed and I wouldn't have she still has her mom with her today. Like I wouldn't have that relationship. So in the long run, it was the right thing to do. It just didn't seem like it at the time. So that was obviously a big, sad story. So something I talked about with someone today that was struggling with some problems, and she said, like, my husband's doing this, and my daughter's doing this, and my coworker's doing this, and blah, 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 blah. And this has always stuck out to me at any Danny Johnson I go to, is if you are having issues with your coaches, with customer service, with your upline, with your challengers, with your husband, with your kids, there's one common denominator in all of that, and it's you. You're the only person in all those situations. So you're the person that has to change, not all the other people. That's called taking responsibility for the situation and for yourself and for your actions. So if you find that like it feels like everyone's coming against you or nothing's going right, like you have to really take responsibility that you're the one common denominator in all those problems. So that's the person that we have to start with fixing first. Okay, number 7. Have a burning desire to succeed. So we are all born with these awesome, that stinks, that this awesome desire to succeed. Like when you're a little kid, you have all this enthusiasm. You believe in Santa Claus. Like you feel like you can do whatever you want. When you like tomorrow's career day, dress up like your favorite career day at school. And you know what? Like they're dressing up as chefs and soccer players. And Jackson's, okay, no lie, Jackson said, he's like, well, I'm going to be a Beachbody real estate investment marine biologist. And I was like, awesome. I love it. That's great. But you want to do like all these things and no one like squashes them. Well, I hope parents aren't squashing them. And then as soon as we get older, and if someone was to be like, oh, well, I'm going to be a Beachbody real estate investor marine biologist, people are like, sure you are. Right. I bet, And I am doing 2 out of the 3, FYI. So I have yet to got my marine biologist license. So I don't know what Megan's saying, but she's talking. So we're born with all these desires. It's been buried in our egos, ego is a whole call we could do. Ego is not being conceited or full of yourself. Ego is saying, I'm shy and I'm an introvert, and ego is judging other people, and ego is being self-centered, and ego is thinking I know all this already, and ego is being self-righteous, thinking that you're mightier than thou. And it's not just conceited. Like she was like, you guys saying that you're shy or that you're nervous or you're afraid, y'all have the biggest ego in the room. Like, get over yourself. It's not about you. Anything where it's then about you. So if you come to me and say, I'm scared to send an invite, that is ego, because it is about you. It is not about the other person. When it's about you, it's your ego, and you just need to take it off and get rid of it. One of the things I highlighted was, she said, without risk, there is no faith. And I even said that when I introduced my new coach, Lamona, in the team tonight, is she stepped out on faith and took a risk. We had a phone call tonight, and I told her, I said, the only thing holding you back is fear that you're going to fail. Like, that's the only thing holding you back. And what's the worst that can happen? You buy a $140 challenge pack and then quit? Like, I already prepped her that it's not going to happen in a month. You're not going to lose 30 pounds in a month, and you're not going to build a business in a month. If you want to lose 100 pounds, you're probably not going to do it in a year, and you might not build a business in a year. It's okay. You have to step out in faith and take a risk for big things to happen, period. You do. They don't happen in your comfort zone. They don't happen just staying the same. They don't happen not growing. They don't happen not learning. They don't happen not investing in yourself. They don't. They do not happen. You will not change. You will stay exactly the same. And if I told you right now that you will be in exactly the same spot that you are right now 5 years from now, I hope that that would make everyone sad. I don't want you to be in the same spot. There's so many people that would be okay with that and be like, oh, that's fine. Like, my life's fine. That sounds great. Like, that's such a 98% poverty mentality mindset, like that it is what it is. And it doesn't have to be that way at all, guys. So we don't go all in with excitement because we're scared it's not okay. We don't go all in with excitement because we're scared it's not going to work. So coaches that you see, like, that do want to check it out. I'm not saying great coaches come from discount coaches, but in general, people do not dive in because they don't think it's going to work. So that comes down to us to show them that it does work. Like, they want to know that it's simple, it's easy, or it's simple, it works, and they can do it. Those are the three things I say over and over when I'm talking about a workout or if I'm talking about coaching, and I say it over and over in posts, just stuck in there over and over. It's simple, it works, and you can do it. All right. And then she talked about like ego versus success for a while, but I'll go on to the last one. The very last, number 8, was forgiveness. And this is a huge exercise, as I know Megan knows. I think she's the only one on the call that's been to one. This is a huge exercise that she does with everyone. And forgiveness, it sounds like, okay, unstoppable growth, like maybe they don't really go together or people don't understand the connection. But to release people and forgive them and and not expect anything in return. When you forgive someone, you're not expecting an apology in return. You're not expecting them to forgive you. You're releasing them, and it takes this major strain off of you. Like, and you know, Dani Johnson went through awful childhood, and she has come to peace and forgiven her father. And she said it took writing his name down hundreds of times, and, you know, visualizing speaking to him, and visualizing forgiving him, and visualizing bless and releasing him. And I can't even wrap my head around how she did it. But she said forgiveness demolishes excuses and pain. Forgiveness kills jealousy and comparison. Forgiveness kills unrighteousness. Forgiveness kills all past pain. If you carry past failures into a new business or a relationship, or if you have current forgiveness issues or current things that you can't let go, you're going to have a really hard time succeeding in any business ever. So every time we go, we have to write down our name for forgiving ourselves, and write down another name of someone that we forgive. And it's a much more powerful exercise when you do it in person and get to hear her speak and really think about what she's saying. But it's a really important step for unstoppable growth, is not holding grudges, being slow to take offense, and forgiving people. And guys, forgiving people does not mean that they have to be your best friend. You know, we got in this conversation afterwards at the house, and I said that to some girls. It was their first time there. And I go, just because you forgive someone does not mean that they're not a total asshole. Like, some of the names I've written down, like, they're not my friends. I'm not going to be friends with them, but I don't carry it with me anymore. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm at peace with it. And I'll tell you, it makes me a happier, more successful person in life, for sure. So anytime we have those grudges, we just need to let it go as quickly as we can and go through this exercise to do it. So let me see if anyone said anything, or if anyone wants to unmute themselves, feel free. If anything stood out or any questions you had, or if one of those things you know you need to work on. Forgiveness for the other person. It's it's not for the other person, it's for you. It's not something that you go and tell someone, hey, I forgive you. That's not what it's about. I do want to say that on the topic of forgiveness, Katie's not on here, but one of the exercises that she challenged us to do, and I've never heard her say this. I don't know if you remember it at yours, Megan, but she said, I challenge all of you guys to forgive a past debt. So someone that owes you money, whether it's $20 or $20,000, I encourage you to text them right now or to step out of the room and call them and tell them that they don't owe you that money anymore. No strings attached. And I did it right there. I sent a text and I showed it to the girls around me for someone that owes me quite a bit of money and said that I do not expect it to ever be repaid. And this is someone that I've had to forgive at several other Danny's, and I have done that. And now I forgave him of this debt that he owed me. And he wrote back very nicely saying, I'm not forgetting about you. I'm like, well, that's fine. I'm just letting you know. You don't have to pay me back. Anyway, she shared all these stories of people that have forgiven debts and what's happened like in their life following it. Katie Hammond is a coach on our team, and she went with me. She drove from the Houston area. And when she left, she sent a message to a friend that only owed her a couple $100s and said, hey girl, I don't want you to feel like you have to pay me back. Like, I'm not expecting it. And she forgave her of the debt. And she went into work Monday morning and got a $3,000 bonus. So she told multiple stories like that, but to have someone that was sitting next to me during that tell that story to me, I was like, are you kidding me, Katie? Like, she's like, I was like crying almost. Like, she's like, I couldn't believe it. And that's the reap what you sow, but it comes in the form of forgiveness as well. And so that's a interesting challenge for you guys to do. I'm still waiting on my windfall. I'm pretty sure you're all going to send me checks this week, but I just got chills. Okay. You can forgive and not have a relationship with them. I agree, Megan. It is for you, not them. The bitter feelings. Absolutely. Like, absolutely. And it takes a bigger person to do that. And we did talk about on forgiveness, how someone was like, I'm going to forgive my mother of X, Y, and Z. And Summer was like, well, if your mother doesn't know that you're upset about X, Y, Z, you don't need to be bringing it up. Like, you can just forgive her without talking to them about it. If it's someone you want to talk about with it and say, I forgive you for this, they need to be aware that you were even upset about it. There's no point in, bringing up something that someone has no idea that ever bothered you. That's selfish. That's then about you. That's about you, like, getting it out there. And that's not what the point of it is. But all of this is, guys, it's really just tied to unstoppable growth. And like I said, I've never seen her present it this way. This was, the whole first morning of Saturday morning. And obviously it was a much longer and detailed, but just kind of a taste of some of the stuff that she talks about at these events. And, half the day is really spent on, so the whole second afternoon, what it is more about selling and forming relationships more from a sales aspect after you kind of break through all that junk in the morning. And then the second day, half the day is spent on gyms and personality training, which is really fun. And war on debt, and paying off debt. And I wish I had written down the exact numbers, but they had something like 120 people on stage that had gone through war on debt, and together they paid off like $27 million. It was like an insane amount of money that they had paid off. And a lot, like 10 people shared their stories, and Summer was talked up there, and a lot of other really inspiring stories up there. So that's the second day. And then if anyone is going and decides to say the third day, it's an entrepreneur workshop. I didn't stay this time for it, but I've gone to it a couple times. And it's great. Like, she talks a little more about like social media, and she made her first million in multi-level marketing. She was actually in Herbalife. So she definitely talks to you from something that we're familiar with, helping people with their health and fitness and how to talk to them and how to relate to them. So that's interesting knowing she came from that. Like, there's no business's name. Like, even at the event, you can't chat with people about what you do. Like it's not a networking event at all to talk to people. So does anyone have any questions about if you're, about the event, if you're considering going, or any questions about these 8 things or anything y'all want to share? No. All right.
Definitely going.
Well, thanks for being. Oh, good.
No, you can go ahead, Kim. You're good. I was just going to say that I'm going, and I'm going to go do all 3 days. So if anybody and Adrian is going too. Wilson's going to let her go. He and I have a little bit of an agreement. So I'm really excited about that. Right, Wilson?
Agreed. Good. I'm so excited. Well, I'll be there. I already got my ticket. I'm not staying for Monday, but just because I can't. So it's great though. I like encourage you to do Monday if you can, if you're able to. So I'll be there. We're trying to figure out like if we're gonna all get a house together or what. The list is pretty big as far as who's going, and so we're trying to figure out how we're going to squeeze into one house without being on top of each other. But you didn't talk, Blaine? You're not muted. You must want to talk. No? Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited, guys. Well, thanks for being on the call, and sorry for the technical things. I'll just have to show my laundry off. I guess that's what God wants, what the world wants, to see my laundry. This was even cleaning day. What the heck? It's never ending. All right. See you later.
Bye.